Hello, sportsmen. Hey, if you enjoy winter sports, what have you been doing lately? I mean, this winter has gotten off to a crazy start, and it's certainly botched up our normal ice fishing plans. So last week, we went goose hunting. Now, not in cornfields like most hunters do. Taxidermist Wade Miller and Tim Hayes took us out on open water, hunting for geese the way we hunt for ducks in the fall. We'll show you how it's done in the winter, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost with ideas on how you can become a more practical sportsman. In a normal year, this little waterway connecting two southern Michigan lakes would be frozen, but not in January of 1998. This does give us a chance to hunt for geese on open water, though. The late goose season goes through the end of January this year.
Oh,
there we go.
She's slick right there.
Yeah, it is. Goose hunting does not take a lot of expensive equipment, but it does take as much as you can put in a small boat and still leave about 6 inches of freeboard. Overloaded boats and canoes are characteristic of waterfowl hunting. You have to be very careful. The water is as cold as it gets at this time of year, just a few degrees above freezing, but geese are attracted to it. Gary Ruska is a frequent hunting companion of Wade Miller and Tim Hayes, and Gary's chocolate lab will hopefully be retrieving our geese today. Tim Hayes is putting the feet on the goose decoys. The brand name is, as you might guess, Bigfoot, designed to stand on shore. Wade Miller finishes the job by placing the heads on each decoy and then placing the decoys along the water in a lifelike diorama, imitating a flock of feeding geese. Now, if you thought riding in the fully loaded boat was a little dangerous, you should try walking in a marsh with insulated clothing and chest waders. That's another iffy experience at this time of year. Wade Miller has a guiding service for winter geese. His nickname is Colonel Mallard because he always takes charge.
Well, they got to go towards the wind because they fly into the wind and they leave in the wind. Whenever they're resting, they're always in the wind. Everything's got to be into the wind. If you're going to kill a lot of geese, your wind's your favorite tool. All right, put them right up here, then we'll put them other biggies right over there.
A few geese flew over as we were setting up, but Wade knew that some big flocks were working the area, and they'd be in soon.
Brody, if you're gonna have to be on an angle, you know what I'm saying? See, because I got to get Fred and these guys in here so they can shoot these birds right. So we're gonna be.
The boats we pulled up on shore would be our modestly camouflaged blinds.
There we go.
We sat in these boats where we could stay relatively warm. We got set up by 2:30 or so, and by 4 o'clock, the light had changed. Now, you can't see it with your naked eye when you're in the marsh, but the setting sun on a cloudy day changes the color of the sky and the snow. On videotape, the oranges turn brownish. Jasmine is Gary's chocolate lab. She's almost 2 years old, and she retrieved her first goose a week earlier. Now, retrieving a 12-pound goose is not easy. Oh, get down. Here they come.
They're gonna hook right in here, you guys. Keep your heads down.
As these geese come into the open water, the calls, the decoys, we'll just let the tape roll.
Or they're gonna go right on by us. Let's go! We got one.
Got one. Yeah, the wind was angling across, so they were out a little farther than...
Come on.
There's Jasmine.
Bring it here.
Working with that goose.
Come on. Bring it here. All right. Good girls.
Come on, Jazzy. Come on, Jazzy.
Oh, look at that.
Go, girls. Come on.
Come on.
Come on. Bring it here. Come on. Bring it here.
Off that ice.
Come on. Come on.
Well, Jasmine had a little trouble at first getting a grip on that big goose, but she finally carried it down to the water.
No, there she goes. There she goes. Let her bring it right to your hand, Gary. Let her bring it right to you.
Oh, man.
Well, this scene right here was worth the price of admission. We all shared Jasmine's accomplishment of swimming with this goose.
Yes. Good girls. Come here. Yeah. Good girls. Yeah. Yes, it's bad.
Well, it wasn't long after Jasmine delivered the first goose that another small flock appeared overhead.
Get ready, Fred. Matt, don't move. Matt, get down a little bit. Down, down. Oh, here they come. Here they come.
This small group circled several times and finally decided to drop in.
Shoot them.
Oh, Maddie. Oh, boy. That was not the most graceful thing I've ever done. That was something else. Wasn't that something, Maddie? I tell you, we had the boat out here in the water. We were making noise, moving around, and they still came right in. That was awesome. That was awesome. I actually think I got that one, but we'll go to Wade for the ruling on it, but I think I got it.
Get in the boat.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. There it is. This is your giant Canada goose. Are you close enough, Matt? Vern.
There's not a whole lot of room in here.
No, there isn't a lot of room. But that's a giant Canada goose. This baby's probably, I don't know, 10, 12 pounds. Some good meat in those breasts. Oh boy, I tell you, it's not that easy in all these clothes. I probably have 3/4 of the clothes I own I'm wearing. That's tough turning.
Well, our tally for the afternoon was 2 geese, not exceptional, but not bad. The temperature was dropping and the breeze cut against our faces, reminding us that most waterfowl hunters have put their boats and their decoys away by this time of year. But the giant Canada geese are still flying every day. Their population is still growing in Michigan, and we winter hunters only take a few.
You know, there is one huge difference between goose hunting and hunting for other small game in Michigan, and that is Canada geese are migratory birds. And because they fly from one state to another, they are regulated by the federal government, not the state. Now, federal regulations are much stiffer than the state regulations when it comes to game birds. For example, let's ask our attorney, Sal Ghani, about carrying your geese out of the field. Is it true that one person cannot carry his limit and his buddy's limit of geese from the field to their car?
Yes, it is true. The federal rules are quite clear and quite strict. In the field, or when you're going from the field to your car, home, or hunting cabin, you can't possess more than the bag limit. If the limit is 5, you have your 5. You can't carry your buddy's 5. It's clearly prohibited. You'd have to take your 5, go to your home or cabin, come back and get his 5.
2 ways you can go to prepare a goose for the pan. And there's only 2 ways I know of. One of them is to pluck the goose, where you take the feathers off and leave the skin, or you can skin the goose, take all the skin and the feathers off at one time. Now, that doesn't leave any fat on the meat, but most hunters prefer to do that for the basic reason that this goose is a lot of feathers. Plucking the back, the sides, the top, the bottom, the front, the back. There's so many feathers there, there's not that much meat, good large portions of meat on the goose. Now look down here. What I've done is I've slit up the breast of the goose, not into the stomach cavity, but just the breast, or along the breastbone. And in fact, look how thick that's the goose skin right there and all those feathers on it. I mean, that's a thick bunch of feathers. If you peel this back, you will leave the breast meat, which is the large muscle here in the front, which it uses to power those wings to fly. Now this breast, you can peel it right back, use a fillet knife, and cut it right off, and you have the biggest muscle on the goose. Now it's not white breast like on turkey or chicken, because turkeys and chickens don't fly, so they don't use their breast muscles, and their meat is white. A goose flies, and it's very dark meat. But you see what, it comes off of the outside of the skeleton. We never go inside the stomach cavity, so that keeps a good clean piece of meat. And what we do is we peel back on the other side and use a fillet knife like this, just like you're filleting a fish, and you go down to the bone on both sides, kind of finesse your way around, and you can get virtually all of the meat off of that goose breast. You do want to watch your fingers with this sharp knife. The two breasts that came off of this goose right here. Here's the goose's skeleton, both sides, and that has all of that good edible meat. Now there's one more place you can get some good chunks of meat, and that is the back legs. Now this takes some working and pulling and some cutting, but you pull the skin away, and the easiest thing to do, and frankly the safest thing to do, instead of trying to cut this with a knife, is to use some big shears, like that, some boning shears, and cut that right away. In fact, you can do that with a lot of the skin. And take the legs, the back legs, right off. Leave the bone in them. And the two back legs, they're very short legs. They're short drumsticks with the thigh, also dark meat. And there you go. That's a good bunch of meat from a goose. Now, it does have these little feathers and things on it, which will wash off right away, and we will soak these legs in some vinegar and some salt water. It'll draw the blood out and draw any of this dirt and the feathers right out of it. Next thing, we're going to put a little water in a pan here. I've already washed off the goose, and these are the two ingredients that I put in water. And no fixed amount of salt, just a goodly amount of salt, and then this is just cider vinegar. And again, I just pour some in there. Stir around a little bit, and this will dissolve. But then you put the goose, or in fact any game meat. I do this with all of my game meat, except for venison. I don't do it with venison. But I do it with the small game that's likely to be, shot with bird shot or BB shot. And I set it in there, and we'll put this in the refrigerator and let it soak for a day.
Chances are you've never tasted a goose breast the way Lois Bone from Saba Wing prepares it. Grind a boneless, skinless goose breast into goose burger. Marinate it in 5 tablespoons of Italian dressing and a little pepper for at least an hour or overnight. Take a mixture of a cup of flour, a little garlic powder and seasoning salt, and spread it on wax paper. Then flatten both sides of your goose burgers in this breading. Fry them in just enough oil to coat the pan. Don't over fry or they'll dry out because, remember, they don't have any fat. Saute a couple of large sliced onions in butter until the onions are transparent. Add 2 small cans of mushrooms and saute another 3 minutes. Put the goose burgers on buns, top with the onions and mushrooms, plus a slice of cheese. Oh man, you're going to love Lois Bone's Goose Burgers. The recipe is in the upcoming Outdoor Digest magazine, address coming up at the end of the show.
Now, the guys we just hunted geese with, Tim Hayes and Wade Miller, they are taxidermists by trade. In fact, in the early 1990s, they worked here from the Practical Sportsman Museum in Bath, and one of the birds that they mounted, which we put on the show back in July of 1994, was a giant Canada goose. The lighting of the torch. This is not an Olympic event here, it's taxidermy. Tim Hayes is using just a regular lighter to heat up a wire that is down in the leg of a Canada goose. Looks like a giant Canada goose. Explain this, Tim. What are you doing?
Basically, I'm inserting the wire through the body, and if I heat the wire up first, it actually melts through.
So this is a styrofoam body, a pre-purchased body, and he's putting, this is the leg of the goose that is, of course, I know you want to get that in there quickly, wrapped with Excelsior, it looks like.
It's wrapped with the Excelsior to get some of the muscle detail back into the leg.
And that's the actual leg bone is in
It's
here.
the actual leg bone so that we have the appropriate length.
Okay, so that's in there now. Could we set this up here just a second? We don't have time to go through a whole taxidermy course here, but this is a full mount goose. You said, I heard you talking with Wade, and you said this is a nightmare goose.
Well, big birds are a lot of work, and they just require a lot more energy to put together than a smaller bird does.
Well, you've been working on this for a couple days, actually. This is a giant Canada goose without its bill, without its head. We'll get Wade in here next week. We'll show you putting the head on this goose. Well, that goose is hanging here in the museum, looking live and realistic like it's about to land. Wade Miller showed us a week later what's actually underneath the skin. Some of you may recognize this. This is the neck of a Canada goose. This is a bird that Wade Miller has been working on here in the taxidermy shop for several days. I guess a lot of work goes into a big bird like this.
Right. It's a few days, and there's so many steps, and you can only take them so fast.
Boy, this really feels good.
Yeah.
But I imagine after the bird dries, you won't be able to do
Right.
this. It would mess it up.
It'll be all flattened down.
Well, the down is right inside there and very resilient right now. You're going to put the head, let's see what's underneath here. This is a
Foam neck.
foam neck to represent the muscle in the neck.
Right.
Go ahead and put that head
And
on
this
there.
is a polyurethane head.
A cast head, I guess.
Right.
But for polyurethane, it's condensed and it's very, very heavy and strong.
Right.
What's the advantage of using a cast head like this?
It eliminates the bill shrinking.
So when a mount has a natural bill on it, it'll curl
It
up
shrinks
and shrink?
up right after time,
Huh. You'll take that, bend the wire over.
and glue it, and then it gets clayed, and
So you glue it, put clay on, all sorts of sculpturing to go into
then it's
this.
all super glued around.
Now this goose live weight was about 14 pounds. Now that's one of the giants of the giants because most giant Canada geese are about between 8, 10, 12 pounds like that. But a 14 pounder, that is huge. Now here at the museum is where Wade Miller and Tim Hayes used to work out of a few years ago. Now Wade Miller is in Jackson. He has a business called Trophy Mounts. Tim Hayes is down in Tecumseh working with Brad Bruce at Wildlife Taxidermy Art. But they do have a lot of mounts here. Brad, Wade, and Tim, a lot of mounts here on display. This whole wall, as a matter of fact. In fact, this goose is Roger Vrabel's goose from Lansing. Roger also has a number of other things in here, including this rhinoceros right here. But, you know, there are a lot of things you can do with birds and animal parts, taxidermy and so on, and even fly tying. And for some of you who may not be all that familiar with fly fishing, you might wonder, what's the difference between a wet fly and a dry fly? Well, Professor Finns has the answer.
Basically, the wet just refers to a sinking fly that you're going to fish subsurface, and dry refers to a fly that you're going to fish on the surface and float it. The way you make the determination is when you get streamside and watch and see how the trout are feeding. If they're feeding on the surface on some sort of bug that's already hatched and is about to grow wings and fly away, then you're going to kind of match the hatch that manner. If they're not feeding on the surface, it means they're probably feeding on the larva stage, subsurface, and then depending upon what's in that stream, you want to match whatever the larva is that those fish may be feeding on.
We've already had a lot of big changes here at the Practical Sportsman in 1998. John Ford is off to his computer job at Michigan State University. This show that you just saw was basically videotaped by Matt Radzilowski. The editing was all put together by Brent Detmers. In fact, the two of them worked on all of that. I think they did an outstanding job. Another noteworthy event, this past Saturday, I got my diploma from Cooley Law School in Lansing, so I'm ready to rock and roll on that as soon as I pass the bar. So many things to do. Make sure you get outdoors this weekend. By the way, if you're by Mount Pleasant on Sunday afternoon, I'll be at the camper show there in the field house. So get outdoors. It's a great place to be. See you next week. This is a 25.5-pound northern pike, 45 inches long, from Lake Independence. And you got this through the ice on a smelt?
Yeah.
On a
8-inch
tip-up?
hole. Yeah, tip-up, 8-inch hole.
An 8-inch hole. Well, you could barely get this through.
Yeah, and we didn't have a gaff, so we had to use the hook on the ice skimmer to pull him through the ice.
The hook on the ice skimmer, grab it by the gills,
No, in the mouth.
in the mouth, and you got it hooked and you wormed it up through the ice.
And when it was about halfway through, it fell off, and I had to grab it, pull him out.
Where'd you grab it?
In the gill, but I cut my hand up.
Yeah, no kidding. That could be real sharp up in there. Now, who were you fishing with?
My dad, my uncle, and my dad's friend.
That's pretty nifty. And of course, it was on your tip-up?
Yeah.
So did you let this fish run with the smelt for a long time, or you hook him pretty quick?
Well, he was still running with it, and I knew I'd probably run out of line, so I grabbed it when it was still turning.
Cool. Grabbed it. Did it hook him in the corner of the mouth?
Yeah.
Way to go. See, John? It's the way we've got to do that. While they're running, grab them, hooks them in the corner of the mouth, And then you're hand lining it all the way
Yeah.
with your gloves off? Did it take any line on you, or were you able
Took
to
about 4 good runs.
And what do you do when a pike like that runs? Do you have to drop the line? Or?
No, I just keep some tension on it and just let him go.
Wow. And you finally got him up to the hole. Your uncle, your dad are yelling. Everybody's going
Yeah.
crazy. Try to pull him up through. Now, how many times did you have to try to get his head up in the hole?
2.
Twice. Okay, what day was this? Was this on a Saturday or Sunday? Or?
Saturday.
Very
During
good.
a fishing tournament.
And
And
you
you were
won?
up there.
That was when we were up there?
Yeah.
No kidding. That was an awful day.
Well, we were fishing.
You were out there fishing? My golly. This is what the Yoopers are made of, eh? Huh? Congratulations there. Super fish.